let's have Gladys tell us what she knows.
So we actually didn't come up with anything because we were actually, we had actually done what Jaime told us how to how to determine how to structure the argument. And so what we were doing was we were summarizing the pages, but we were summarizing too broad, so we weren't being like specific up to like what certain pages meant what, because we were being too broad on. Because like we had said that on page 1 to 3, it was talking about Tristan, and we weren't really specific about what about Tristan. So we need to go back and be more specific with our pages.
Great, I totally agree. In that process, did you arrive at anything specific, even just if it's for that first page or two?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Okay. Can I get some feedback from Brenda? Oh, you're in the same group.
Yeah.
What's your question? Or which one say?
Oh, when it did like the first page, like talk about Tristan, like he receives a message about his sexuality. Then later on, it talks about how his school doesn't like accept gays, like the policies. They go to 3, and then like the bottom of 3, it changes to the law.
Yeah, I think that's all accurate. I think the only thing you're missing in those first 3 pages is there are a few paragraphs that zoom out and talk about Christian schools' policies in general, not just Tristan's school. But I think you're on the right track. So you have Tristan's individual story where he gets this message, right? And then you have the school policy. And I think the other thing that happens before we get to the law is that the author gives us some context on how these policies exist throughout Georgia, not just at Tristan's school. Right? Other than that, you're on the right track. Steph, do you have any feedback for Gladys? Obviously, it's not a complete answer, but do you have any feedback for her?
Yeah, first you were saying that pages 1 to 3, it was talking about like Tristan. Like it talks like more like what to Brenda was going. Like it talks about like the Tristan story, and then it talks about Tristan's school, and then it talks about other Christian schools, how they how they are against gays. And then I think that's what you were getting. You were trying to figure out what was like 1 to 3.
Good, Shemai?
So, when you determine the structure, you're trying to like, from what I've seen in the video, like find a pattern or what you also.
From what I saw.
What I saw in the video, like you're finding a pattern or finding something that stands out. So from pages 1 to 3, couldn't they say like, it starts off, how they say it starts off with Tristan story, couldn't they just say like, oh, it's a background story, and then from like the next page they could summarize it and then see what the next pattern is?
What does background story mean?
Like background information on a person. Well, I'm not gonna say person, I'm just say it gives the story of a teen.
Of a teen. Yes, but I do think they can be a little more specific than just a story of a teen.
Okay.
Shante?
Actually, a question, like, did you say that like they were talking? Did you say that they were talking about a story about Tristan on pages 1 to 3?
Well, they were on page 1, 2, 3, and they were too broad about what they specifically said. And so when Brenda was like, it tells about Tristan, I was like, okay, if the page 1 to 3 talks about Tristan, then we can say page 1 to 3 gives a story about a teen. But then you don't look at page 1 to 3. It's talking about Tristan.
Yeah, but like it's a. I explain it, but like on page 3 it's an important page because it tells you it tells you like the laws that they adopted and like how they changed the laws and made it their own. How they made the laws their own. Like on the bottom of page 3, that last paragraph. Like it explains, that's an important paragraph because it explains to you like the different laws that they adopted and like how they changed it to their own and how they had like different like how they look like I don't know how they
I get what you're saying. So like maybe 1 to 3, like the first end of the first paragraph, and then like you said, page 3 is the first an important page about Georgia and FSO law, legislation and stuff like that. What did you say?
Destiny?
That one paragraph on page 3 is the only paragraph that talks about Georgia. That paragraph talks about the funding that the schools in Georgia get, the private schools in Georgia get, but there are other paragraphs like the fourth paragraph. Yeah, the fourth paragraph also talks about Georgia's policy that they have, and the one above that talks about how they can refuse or admit students based on their sexuality. So that's just not the only paragraph that talks about Georgia.
But
I don't know what you're looking at, because we had the fourth paragraph, but I don't know what page we're looking at.
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 2. This is the first full paragraph, and the one above that's the last paragraph. Those two talk about it.
thanks for asking that clarifying question, Lois. So here's the trap that some of you are about to fall into that we want to avoid. The trap that you're about to fall into is that you want to answer this question with an answer that sounds just like your answer for the last article, right? And the last article, once you figured out what this question was asking, the last article was actually pretty easy. Story, big picture. Story, big picture, right? It was kids, school district, kids, school district, kids, school district. A, B, A, B, A, B, right? It's the same question now, but the article is more complex and has a more sophisticated structure. So what Destiny's pointing out on page 2 is that while we are still in Tristan's story, the author zooms out to explain the school's policy, zooms out further to explain how these policies exist all around Georgia, and then zooms right back in to Tristan on the very next paragraph. So the way that we summarize these sections is going to have to get more sophisticated and more specific, because the author doesn't have a structure that is as simple as the last structure was. So again, it's the same question, how does the author structure the argument? But the answer isn't going to be as easy as switching back and forth between two different types of information. So just be aware that we have the same question with a tougher piece now. Okay? I think that's probably enough to send us back. Jaime, can you just remind us one more time, what is it that we're doing in our process to answer this question?
So we're basically asking ourselves what are the elements, what order are the elements going in, and then determining the order of the elements and then summarizing.
Are there 4 steps there? So determining the elements, determining what order they go in. Are you saying determining the order twice or?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Just basically find what the elements are and then find what order the elements are going in and then summarize.
great. Let's go 9 minutes.
That's how we originally do
about specifically like how they switch. It's like the main story is Tristan's experience with being gay and how he didn't want to believe it because he knew that if the school were to find out, he would get expelled, and he kept trying to tell himself that he wasn't gay. And then that's when we like left right. So these first 3 are all about treasure. And then another thought is right here with say many Christian schools in Georgia across the nation have similar policies.
This one talks about, okay, so from page 1 to 2, it talks about how Christian schools have certain rights
He starts talking about the front and the last paragraph. So it starts talking about the funding all the way until
to get an SSO kids money, then, a lot of money, then you will get that money back, but it'll go to your credit, but not to you. It'll go to your tax credit.
How did you get that from? I'm confused.
Because this, you know what I'm saying, like, this is playing the ball on, like, how they were taking advantage of Georgia, private Christian schools in Georgia and other states were taking advantage of the local laws to raise the money for the SSO.
And what specifically are you asking for?
I'm saying, like,
This one demand they just
I think
then on page 4, it was saying how they
oh, this is paragraph right here is kind of introducing us to the part that will take the kids being expelled but not being straight. That's what this is like an introduction. Yeah, he starts talking about Earhart, which was this paragraph right here.